Well, the optics of the chamber was the big standout in the first question time of the 48th Parliament. You saw the Labor benches wrapping around almost two-thirds of the chamber. So, all the coalition seats, all the Green seats that they won now filled by Labor MPs. And a lot of those new Labor MPs were handed questions in that first question time. Ali France beat Peter Dutton in the seat at Dixon. She was first up on her feet.
How is the Albanese Labor government delivering real and lasting cost of living relief, particularly for young Australians, students and apprentices?
The optics really stood out. You had the coalition MPs, what's left of them, filling up just 1/4 of the chamber, and a lot of them were not that, you could tell that there was this sort of grim feeling amongst the coalition. A lot of them were on their phones, a lot of them were on their iPads, whereas on the other side, those Labor benches were energised. There was lots of hubris, lots of chips at the coalition, and then you had over on the other side Susan Lee replacing Peter Dutton, the first female Liberal leader, first female opposition leader. And you could tell she's still finding her feet, finding her way.
The Liberal Party I lead will always champion policies to help more Australians into a home of their own. But under Labor, the home ownership dream has never been further out of reach.
There was a little bit they got to work on. Alex Hawke, the new manager of opposition business, bizarrely never once got up on his feet, never asked anyone to table papers, never tried to sort of test out the speaker, Milton Dick, in terms of how far they could push things. So you had Susan Lee and her own shadow ministers doing that themselves. I did note that Susan Lee also probably didn't turn around and talk to her front bench as much as Peter Dutton did. So they probably need to get that engagement going a bit. The one positive for the coalition that they didn't always get right in the last term of Parliament was sticking on an issue. So today they really went after Labor on super tax. And the retort from Anthony Albanese and Jim Chalmers was a pretty easy one, because the Dutton opposition in the lead up to the May 3 election hardly ever raised the super tax. The impact around unrealised capital gains, the impacts on farmers and small businesses, trusts, etc., etc. So there was bulk of questions were focused in that area.
Will the government rule out ever taxing unrealised capital gains on anything beyond superannuation?
But for Anthony Albanese, it was a pretty easy retort to say, well, maybe you should have run that scare campaign before the last election. You're now running your scare campaign in the first week of the 48th Parliament, 3 years out from the 2028 election.
Did Anthony Albanese deal with Susan Lee in any marked difference to how he dealt with Peter Dutton, given it's the first time the opposition's had a woman? Did you notice any difference in behaviour, or the way he spoke to her, or the way other Labor people spoke when she stood?
Well, Anthony Albanese is a very old school parliamentarian, so I think he will give her a go to start off with, and obviously Susan Lee will have to find her way in terms of what her style is going to be. I didn't see that really on display on day one, but I did see Susan Lee, who was promising to try and brush off the no abolition tag that the Prime Minister liked to place on Peter Dutton's opposition in relation to legislation that would crack down on daycare centres that aren't doing the right thing in relation to some of the awful scenes that we've seen out of Melbourne with this alleged pedophile. She got up and said that the coalition would work with Labor on their legislation. But look, finding each other, feeling each other out, we should see a return to that usual clash in Parliament. But the crossbench is bigger. We've got the Teals there. Other independents that stole coalition seats are there as well. So they obviously get a few questions. But it was really telling that Labor were trying to get all their newbies up on their feet to ask Dorothy Dix's. And for the Albanese government, it's really, bedding down their election policies, not throwing out any surprises at this point of the term, and just really talking out what they're doing. And what they're doing, the first legislation is in relation to cutting HECS loans for millions of Australians, and that's what they really wanted to talk about today.